Stock markets around the world have taken a real battering since President Trump announced his tariff plans last week. Almost £4 trillion wiped off the value of global stocks. The UK's FTSE 100 facing one of the biggest drops for many years.
But despite the economic uncertainty, Sir Keir Starmer has insisted that there won't be tax rises for working people.
Well, in the UK, the richest 10% of the population hold more than half of all the country's wealth.
So, in order to stabilise the British economy, should a wealth tax be imposed on our nation's richest 10% of people? We asked you what you think.
Yeah, tax their assets, tax their stocks, all of it, because they need to stop having these loopholes.
I'm not greatly in favour of taxing people who work hard for their money, but I believe that people that have money spend money and stimulate the economy.
The higher wage earners are they're profiting so much from this country, and maybe if they do kind of put back in, it'll benefit them in the long run.
So, joining us now is political journalist Theo Usherwood, who thinks a wealth tax is fair. And we have millionaire businessman and former Dragon's Den, you'll know him, investor Richard Farley, who believes it is a step too far. Good morning to both of you. Theo, let's kick off with you. There are 57 billionaires in the UK.
Yes.
Their total wealth is £182 billion.
So, look, the Chancellor is going to have to come back to the House of Commons and announce that she has got to refine that fiscal headroom. We know from what the Office for Budget Responsibility said in its forecast at the end of last month that if there were tariffs, we'd lose about 0.6% of GDP. Then you have retaliatory tariffs, and that goes up to 1.1%. So that fiscal headroom that the Chancellor found of 9.9 billion or so, that's going to be wiped out again, and she's going to have to come back. Now, she's got a number of options. She can break her fiscal rules, but of course that risks raising the ire of the market. She could go back to spending cuts, but as we saw with her spending cuts last time around, that's going to plunge 250,000 people into poverty, 50,000 children into poverty by the DWP's own worst estimate. So she's going to have to look at tax rises. Now, she can go for a straight-up wealth tax. The danger is, with a wealth tax per se, that she could end up very quickly putting off people like Richard, and they'll just take their investments, go elsewhere. Or she could end up with the situation she ended up with the farmers going back to the autumn, where it just becomes very messy. What I think she'd probably be wise to do is actually to look at the top rate of tax, the threshold for 125,000, which kicks in at 45 pence in the pound. And if she wants to hit the top 10% of earners, bring that down to £70,000. So you start paying 45p in the pound at £70,000. That's going to raise £12 billion. Roughly. Those are the numbers. And of course, there could be behavioural changes. But actually, for those earning between 70 and 125, you're only paying £3,000 more tax. Are you really going to leave the country? Are you really going to up sticks, take your children out of school, go elsewhere for paying £3,000 more of tax? But
we're not necessarily talking about the highest 10% of earners, because that would bring in people who are, you know, head teachers, super nurses, things like that. You know, actually, if you think about it, the amount you need to earn isn't that much. But if we're talking about the richest people in the country, do they deserve to actually shoulder more of this?
They absolutely should be shouldering more of this. The question is, look, I'm not an idealist about this, and we shouldn't be idealistic about this. We need to raise the money. The fiscal headroom has got to be restored, and we've got to raise the money.
You can take a hit to help save the country.
I'm in a tough situation here, because I think 75% of people want to just raise tax on wealthy people, which is fair enough. And I'm also in a tough situation debating Theo, who does this all day and night. I'm a businessman. But I'll tell you, I was an economist. I did work at the Central Bank in Australia for 5 years as a mathematical economist. I came from the care system. I was in an orphanage for a period of time. So I understand the sentiment. But first off, is it envy or economics? Because I'm seeing a lot of envy, which is natural when times are tough. There's more and more envy. I completely sympathise. Are you thinking with your heart? Or is it your heart, or is it your brain? My heart agrees with you, my brain doesn't. It won't work. Neither of the propositions will work.
Because?
The arithmetic is simple. If it's a sort of a Donald Trump type approach. If Donald Trump was left-wing, it's exactly what he would do. It's the tariff equivalent for a left-wing politician. It won't work. for very obvious reasons, right? So if it's a wealth tax, there's a whole lot of things. There's identification, there's valuation, there's implementation, or there's a high cost. There's a lot of problems just figuring out who should pay it. What's a piece of art worth? What's a business worth? There'll be a behavioural response. All the arithmetic ignores the behavioural response. Look at the farmers when you whacked on a tax. Right? If they could have left the country, I think a lot of farmers would have left the country. People underestimate. But what's missing in a lot of the arithmetic, and I think you're going to see it with the non-DOMs, I'm no longer a non-DOM, I was. What you'll see with the non-DOMs is what is not counted is the people who don't come here. Yeah. The opportunity cost, what's called the opportunity cost to the UK, will be massive. Right?
The problem with Richard, I think people find that a bit upsetting. In terms of our viewer content response, there are lots of people saying, the rich work hard, they pay lots of tax already. Then you have Jeanette, no, it won't help. Millionaires hide their money in offshore tax havens. Saying that they already pay loads of tax is a good argument, but saying...
How many millionaires does Jeanette own? Oh, no, sorry. How many does she know? I understand the sentiment. You know, my brothers... I'm one of 11. My brothers and sisters are working class people. I understand the sentiment. It won't work.
But if I was... Look, you're richer than all of us put together, Richard. So I'm not going to start telling you how to suck eggs and make money, right? But if I was looking at this, and I know there's a lot of froth and there's a lot of hysteria about what's happening in the stock markets at the moment and what people are seeing when they look at their pension pots. But just hold on a second, because actually we've got a better tariff than the European Union, 10% into the United States. Consumers in the United States aren't going to just stop buying British products when they have to pay 10% extra, especially when you're looking at luxury products like whiskey.
Are you saying we're in a good position or a bad position?
I'm saying, actually, you're in a good position. You should stay in this country because you're in a good position. And now, this is real money. No, on a $50 million trade, but on a $50 million trade into the United States, you will save $5 million being based here rather than the European Union.
First off, the estimates just on... So I don't know if we're talking about a wealth tax or an income tax. If it's a wealth tax, what are they saying? 10,000 people have already left?
Yeah.
If it's the tax that's been talked about, which is 10 million plus, right, wealthy people...
I'm saying they've made a mistake.
If it's that one, what are we talking about? 25,000 people. Already 10,000 people have left. Fast forward your strategy. What are you going to do if 25,000 people leave? What are you going to do if 12,000 people leave?
I'm saying they've made a mistake. I'm saying stay here.
I know personally 4 or 5 of my very wealthy friends, wealthier than I am, who have left the country. I can tell you what they paid in VAT.
They may leave, Richard, but are they selling their London properties?
What they paid in VAT... Wait a sec. What they paid in VAT per year would pay for 20 teachers. They've left. So, well done.
But I'm saying they should have stayed here, and I'm saying, actually, if you look at it, I'm saying there's an opportunity. Well, I'm saying they're making a mistake. I think there are opportunities in this new world order for millionaires, billionaires to base themselves here, set up businesses here.
Can I just ask a question of Richard? Is it right that the top 10% richest people own 57% of the wealth in this country? That is an obscene inequality. And at the moment, it is people at the lower end, thousands of children who may be pushed into poverty.
I agree.
It's wrong, isn't it?
It's wrong. It is wrong, right? And there's various reasons for it, but this won't fix it. Right? This won't fix it.
OK.
First, I mean, there's you know, so, I mean, you can't... I'm not going to blame people.
But then what's the alternative?
The number of people...
Last point, Richard.
OK, the number of people aren't working. Right, what's the problem there? OK, you've got to incentivise people.
But we did austerity, we had worse austerity. Ed Balls was there in the comments arguing against the double-dip recession.
I'll tell you what I want to do.
With the chance
very quickly.
20 seconds,
my answer in 20 seconds. There was a 20 billion hole in finances. We agreed on that both sides of politics blame each other. Let's have an inquiry. Where did that 20 billion go?
She hasn't got that time. She's got to come back with an alternative in the autumn.
Well, we did run a poll.
We did.
As disappeared.
62% agree with Theo that we should have a wealth tax, and just less than 40% agree with Richard, although, as Richard says, it's not whether you want it, it's whether you can do it.
Thank you to both of you.